Hi everyone, this is Eagle News. I am Rose Papa Angeles in Washington. It's Saturday, March 18, 2023, here in the nation's capital. The week's recap begins with a first-of-its-kind summit by Bloomberg Philanthropies, the World Health Organization, Vital Strategies, and Mayor Sadiq Khan of London. 5 cities from across the globe are commended for their exemplary achievements at the Partnership for Healthy Cities Awards. Here's Joanne Soriano. Take a look.
5 global cities are recognized for their achievements in preventing non-communicable diseases, or NCDs, and injuries. Award recipients include Montevideo, Uruguay for food policy, Mexico City, Mexico for road safety, Vancouver, Canada for surveillance, Athens, Greece for overdose prevention, and Bengaluru, India for tobacco control. The inaugural Partnership for Healthy Cities Summit in London brings together mayors and officials from more than 50 major cities across the globe. This in a partnership to discuss urgent public health concerns and best practices that save lives and create healthier cities. NCDs include heart disease, stroke, cancer, diabetes, and chronic respiratory diseases. And injuries are responsible for over 80% of all deaths globally. WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says the 5 cities being recognized demonstrate that mayors can drive powerful progress to protect the health of their citizens. Joanne Soriano, New York, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Meanwhile, the Veterans Affairs Department is aiming to end homelessness for thousands of veterans in the country this year. Bernadette Ragini reports.
This year, 2023, the U.S. Veterans Affairs Department, or VA, has a goal to place at least 38,000 veterans experiencing homelessness into permanent housing. VA says it aims to ensure that 95% of housed veterans this year do not return to homelessness. But for those who do, VA says it will work on having at least 90% rehoused by the end of the year. VA says between 2020 to 2022, over 33,000 veterans experienced homelessness, sheltered and unsheltered. Sheltered homelessness means living in places such as emergency shelters, transitional housing programs, or other supportive settings. Unsheltered homelessness means living in places not meant for human habitation, such as cars, parks, sidewalks, abandoned buildings, and literally on the street. States with the highest rates of unsheltered homelessness among veterans are Mississippi, California, Washington, Georgia, and Hawaii. Bernadette Ragini, Virginia Beach, Virginia, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Several stories from Thomas I. Likeness today, from hundreds of women taking a self-defense class in Mexico, to Syrian medical students learning Deutsch to get more work opportunities, to a new outfit for the moon. These and more on Correspondent at Large.
And now news and commentary from around the globe. These times are dangerous for women in Mexico. Femicide. That's the killing of a woman or a girl by men because of her gender. Mexico averages 10 murders of women every day. That's more than 3,600 a year. And that danger prompted women in a borough of Mexico City to do something to reduce the risk to themselves. In Iztapalapa, just days after International Women's Day, nearly 1,000 women signed up for a self-defense class. It took place in a park. The teachers, a woman and 2 men, they directed the students using a megaphone. The women learned how to kick, punch an assailant in the face, and twist their arms to escape an attacker. Women say it's important that they learn how to stand up for themselves, how to defend themselves, and it could save their lives. A number of Syrian medical students are including a new course in their studies. It's German language. Why? Well, these students say they're preparing for the future. Life in Syria is harsh. There's limited opportunity. People are fleeing because of the civil war that has dragged on for 12 years now. So as well as learning anatomy, pathology, and all those other preclinical subjects, medical students like W.H.O are teaching themselves German. He hopes to end up in the European country after graduation. Take advantage of the training there, maybe even settle there for good. And Sasho says he won't be out of place. There are almost 1 million Syrians living in Germany. Apparently, it's the dream of most Syrian medical students to travel there. They say for them, Germany is the land of opportunity. Well, here's a fashion statement that's just out of this world. It's the next generation new spacesuit that astronauts on the Artemis 3 moon mission will be wearing. Here is what it looks like. Now, this is just a prototype, not quite what the astronauts will be wearing on the moon. There will be a color difference. They won't be adhering to that old-fashioned degree that your grandmother might have told you about. You remember the ban on wearing white during winter and spring? Not the case here. On the moon, the suit will be mostly white, and that's for thermal reasons. That's because white will reflect the heat from the sun's rays. These suits, incidentally, are the first new design in 40 years. They're going to be more flexible, and they'll improve the ability of astronauts to perform their tasks on the lunar expedition. And here's an animal story with a happy ending. Comes from down under. Joey is saved from the Crocs, mate. A bit of translation of Australian English here. A Joey is a baby kangaroo. Some other kangaroo trivia. A male kangaroo is a boomer. A female kangaroo, well, she's a flyer. And Crocs, well, that's slang for crocodiles. So, back to the story. In Burketown in northeastern Australia, floodwaters recently inundated the area at record high levels, and with those floodwaters came some crocodiles. Now, police on patrol spotted this Joey in the murky water. In their boat, they raced over to pluck him to safety. They call him Lucky. Lucky. That's because he was found in an area where a couple of Crocs had been lurking, waiting for lunch to drift by. Oh, and here's Lucky hopping off to his next adventure. I love it when things work out. I'll be back in 7 days, and in the meantime, I wish you all peace, joy, and happiness in the ensuing week. Thomas I. Likeness, Correspondent at Large, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
In Papua New Guinea's capital city of Port Moresby, a celebration of the culture and identity of Indigenous people delight communities. From canoe racing to cultural dances to the event's queen selection. Eko Hortaleza Quinola on Oceania At A Glance.
Hiri Moale Day once again gathers the citizens and the foreign visitors. The annual event commences in Aracona Beach and Sir Hubert Murray Stadium. This celebration is to pay homage to the voyagers of the trading tribes and villages using the famous iconic sea vessel called Lakatoy. Lakatoy is a wooden hull covered with bamboo and straw boat. The National Capital District officials led the joy-filled day. The Motukoitabu region highlights and showcases the culture and identity of the indigenous residents of the capital city. Activities include a canoe race, cultural dances, and the selection of a queen from the representatives of each village. The traditional cultural shows unites the city once again. One people, one city, one future for Port Moresby. Eko Hortaleza Quinola, Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
An alarming report by the World Health Organization reveals that people are taking in too much salt. This sets us off track in achieving the target of reducing salt intake by 30% by 2025. Rosal Feria reports on what might help save lives from excessive sodium intake. Here's Health is Wealth.
Did you know that the daily salt intake recommendation by the World Health Organization is less than 5 grams? That is 1 teaspoon per day. But a WHO report says the global average salt intake is more than double its recommendation. WHO says eating too much salt makes it the top risk factor for diet and nutrition-related deaths. More evidence shows links between high sodium intake and increased risk of other health conditions. These include gastric cancer, obesity, osteoporosis, and kidney disease. WHO calls on countries to establish sodium content targets for processed foods and enforce them through policies. WHO's 4 best buy interventions related with sodium, which greatly contribute to preventing non-communicable diseases, include reformulating foods to contain less salt and setting targets for the amount of sodium in foods and meals, establishing public food procurement policies to limit salt or sodium-rich foods in public institutions such as hospitals, schools, workplaces, and nursing homes, front-of-package labeling that helps consumers select products lower in sodium, and behavior change communication and mass media campaigns to reduce salt or sodium consumption. WHO says that at present, only 5% of its member states is protected by mandatory sodium reduction policies. Rosal Feria, Washington, D.C., Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
In other news, the Education Department will be using undercover applicants to find out if colleges and institutions are complying with the laws and regulations in the federal student aid programs. Carlo Valdez tells us more on Learning Curve.
They are called secret shoppers, and the Department of Education is using them to make sure that predatory schools are held accountable. The Department's Enforcement Office of Federal Student Aid, or FSA, says secret shoppers will help them ensure that students, borrowers, families, and taxpayers are not being preyed upon to make a quick buck. Secret shoppers will look for misrepresentations regarding the transferability of credits, job placement rates, completion and withdrawal rates, graduates' future earning potential, career services, the cost of attendance, the amount of federal student aid, and accreditation status. They will also hunt for any other practices that may violate the laws and regulations governing an institution's participation in the federal student aid programs. And if they find something not right, well, their discoveries may serve as evidence to support an ongoing investigation or review. They may also provide a basis for opening a new investigation or review. FSA will refer findings to other department offices, including the Office of Inspector General. It will also share findings with other law enforcement partners at the state and federal levels. FSA's Chief Enforcement Officer warned schools that engage in fraud or misconduct should clean up accordingly. The FSA assures, however, that schools that act lawfully have nothing to fear from secret shopping. At present, according to the U.S. National Center for Education Statistics, over 85% of students here in America receive some form of financial aid. Carlo Valdez, Union, New Jersey. Eagle News, we live in extraordinary times.
This week, Eagle News correspondent Jalen Valdecantos asks our friends and neighbors if they think climate change is indeed a major threat to humanity. Take a look.
Among other issues in our post-COVID world, climate change stands out as a major global concern. The Pew Research Center conducted a survey in August 2022, and they found that 75% of people across 19 different countries still find global climate change as a major threat to our planet. Past polls and surveys found that, generally, younger people care more about climate change compared to older generations.
Yeah, temperatures are rising. Last thing I kind of read about was like the glaciers falling apart.
So what I know about climate change is that it is mainly man-made.
The global temperature is increasing, Like it's basically like turning hotter, and like there's like a more likelihood of extreme weather basically.
I don't really know that much about climate change, but I think some things can be like dangerous towards the environment.
I do think it's a threat, and we have to somehow condemn it.
I think it is a threat. I don't think it's like super crazy, but I mean in the future it's gonna keep getting worse.
I mean,
global warming is real.
Yeah, definitely real.
It's real.
We was in LA yesterday.
Yeah, and
flights was delayed because of weather.
The natural disasters that are happening on there.
You wouldn't even think about that in LA. Like, you know what I'm saying? We came from the East Coast, so we think about stuff like that over there.
You know, when, you know, for the West Coast and it be cold,
but,
you know,
and that's what
it's snowing and raining.
Stuff
and
like that should make people think.
No, I don't think it's a real threat to our society. I don't think humans could actually affect this planet I just don't think they can. This planet's been here long before us.
So I do believe that it is could become a problem, or it is a problem.
I do believe that it is it is out there and it does exist, but I don't believe it's as drastic as some people want it to be.
I don't know, I think it's really ignorant of people that don't believe in climate change when like the statistics are there.
We do have a responsibility to like take better care of the planet, but this planet could literally just turn a little bit and just kick us off if it wants. So we should do a little bit better.
It sounds like even if there are those who don't believe in climate change, they can agree that something should be done about it.
I believe it's important to teach our children early what we learn late. Teach them and tell them that there's a better way to do stuff than what it used to be.
If you're going to try to change something, you got to do it through social media.
Obviously, there's people bringing awareness to it already, but I feel like as a younger generation, they're more focused on like unimportant things like, I don't know, video games.
Consume less wasteful products. Like the big problem with plastic right now. Hey, well, this is reusable. This is reusable bottle.
Single-use plastics, let's try to steer away from that. I don't think the world's going to be saved by using cardboard straws. I don't think that's all the way in.
Try to get rid of the fossil fuels in a different way than just cutting it all out together.
We could bicycle more. We could use like less of our cars because those use like a lot of fuel.
Save power by turning off things that we're not using.
As individuals, we can do lots of things like recycling, stuff like that, and that's all good, but I think the only change that would be big enough is if, as nations, we do something, and that's mainly politics.
Yeah, I do recycle, but I don't think that doesn't really do much in the grand scheme of things.
Some people feel they can't create significant change on their own, so we asked if there should be government mandates to try to mitigate the effects of climate change.
Wow, that's a tough question. I mean, in a heartbeat, I would say yes, but then if you think about it, how would you do something? And if you force people, a lot of the time when governments do make decisions, the people that are more affected are in lower to middle income, and technically living a more sustainable life can be more expensive.
It depends what the mandate would be. I feel like an example of that would be like California trying to ban all gas vehicles and make everyone switch to electric, which wasn't a very popular decision with California in general. But yeah, I think it depends on what mandate it would be.
I think I've heard this, that in a number of years they'll be changing the cars where there won't be gas-powered cars. That's a good change that the government is making. But I mean, they can only do so much. I mean, you gotta make your money, I gotta make mine. And if she wants to buy your gas-guzzling car, you're gonna sell it to her, no matter what government I am.
As we just saw, there are many differing opinions on this issue. It's clear that this isn't something going away anytime soon, and that the climate change debate will just continue. Jalen Valdecantos, Las Vegas, Nevada, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
A very interesting dish we will learn how to make today. Our very own Aika Ira shares with us her recipe for Moroccan chickpea stew. Put on your aprons and let's go behind the counter.
Hey, I'm Aika, and welcome back to Behind the Counter, where we see easy and tasty meals be brought to life. this week we have a dish that'll make you ask, where has this dish been all my life? Let's take a look at this Moroccan chickpea stew. Check back here for full recipes, and if there's a dish that you'd like to see, let us know in the comments below. Catch us on EagleNewsLive.com, on our Eagle News YouTube channel, and our Facebook page. Check back next time when we go behind the counter.
Thank you, Aika. That looks amazing. And before we let you go, here's our photo of the week by Cherry Ricolizado. This is in Toronto, Ontario in Canada. Look at the skier about to take on that slope. Thank you all for joining us again. If there are stories or topics you want us to share with you, just comment below. View, like, share other shows. City Limits with Alan Basayahe. Connected with Dr. David. Take a seat and join us with Anna Kui. Play Date with Mike Hudson and friends. Plus, Journey Stories of Filipinos Abroad with Kathleen Cruz. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Eagle News Live. I am Rose Papa Angeles. We'll live in extraordinary times. Happy weekend, everyone.